Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Endurance Sports University Triathlon Study Hall, episode number 20. All right. If you're like me, I love audiobooks, especially while I'm training. There's nothing quite like listening to a good book while I'm on the trainer, running on a treadmill, or whatever else it is I'm doing. So I teamed up with Audible audiobooks. And if you haven't already, you can get 2 amazing audiobooks for free at endurancesportsuniversity.com/audible. They have an outstanding selection of books ranging from triathlon and endurance sports books like Iron War, outstanding book. Really love that while riding on the trainer and outside. They also have some great business books and bestsellers. They have something for everyone. So if you love to read and want to take your book with you on a training session, Audible is for you. All you have to do, go to endurancesportsuniversity.com/audible. You get 2 free audiobooks. Second sponsor for this evening's Triathlon Study Hall call is Xterra Wetsuits. With unparalleled design, Xterra Wetsuit strives to offer the highest performing triathlon wetsuit at the best value. As a global leader in triathlon wetsuits, Xterra Wetsuits provide speed, comfort, durability, and buoyancy for dedicated triathletes. I personally love Xterra wetsuits. They're absolutely awesome. So we decided to partner up with them. If you use that discount code CO-ESU, you get 60% off. They got the Volt, Vortex, or Vector Pro wetsuit, Lava Pants, Lava Shorts, or their pretty awesome Valor Speed Suit. All you have to do, go to endurancesportsuniversity.com/Xterra. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are new to the Triathlon Study Hall, let me introduce myself. My name is Ryan Reel, USAT Level 2 coach, youth and junior coach. Master's degree in exercise physiology, biomechanics, second master's degree in organic and biological chemistry. USA Triathlon High Performance Team head coach and team director. Was one of the few elite coaches over at Training Bible until I broke off earlier in 2015 and founded Endurance Sports University. So here we are. What is Endurance Sports University, you ask? It's an international leader that provides triathlon coaching. We have a membership program. We have education for coaches and athletes, the coaching mentorship program, and a ton of resources and services for athletes and coaches of all ages and abilities. All right, what is our agenda for this evening? This is a pretty well-timed topic. Do you need to build a bigger base? So as we are transitioning from the race season into the fall and winter, the question is, the heck should you be doing? What should you be doing with training? Should you be training? Should you just be off? Should you just be cruising around and long, slow distance? Should you be cross training? What the heck should you do? And that ultimately depends what you want in 2016. All right, so let's take a look at the concept of building a bigger base. Quite frankly, when I hear somebody tell me, well, I'm just building a bigger base, blood squirts out of my eyeballs. It is pretty much a good way to get me to vomit all over myself involuntarily. So let me explain why I'm so opinionated about this. So what is an aerobic base? It's your ability to move at a given output, power or speed, while staying under your anaerobic threshold, which is also known as your lactate threshold. All right, so anything that is under lactate threshold is technically aerobic. It is aerobic. When we're talking about an aerobic base, and we are using the threshold model for determining, judging, calculating, tabulating the intensity, we are normally talking about zones 1 and zone 2. This is the long, slow distance. I can do this all day. I'm preparing for an Ironman type intensity. All right, that's what an aerobic base is. Pretty simple. All right. When you are building a bigger aerobic base, you are not building a bigger engine. Let me be very, 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 very clear about that. If you're riding around in zone 1 or zone 2, even zone 3, you could argue zone 4, you are not building a bigger engine. What you are doing is building a bigger gas tank. All right, so let's think about that for a minute. If you look at the gas tank that's attached to a lawnmower, and you compare that to a gas tank that is attached to a car, Which one's going to get you further down the road? The bigger gas tank is, absolutely. The gas tank is your ability to go longer. All right, your aerobic base is going to determine how far and or long you can go, not the intensity that you can do it at. So let me stop there and talk for a second about this. All right, so your aerobic base, your ability to ride or to run or to swim forever at a low intensity, that's your aerobic base. That has to do with the size of your gas tank. How much gas can you put in, and how far can you swim or bike or run at a relatively low intensity, or at any intensity for that matter, before you run out of gas. All right, so if I told everybody on the call, hey, get in the pool and just start swimming and stop when you can't swim anymore. Or hey, get on your bike, start riding to San Diego. I know the majority of you on this call are on the East Coast, so start riding. At some point, you're going to be like, all right, I need to eat some food. I'm going to take a break. I got to sleep. I got to rest. Right? You ran out of gas. That happens. All right. That is what aerobic base is. That is nothing to do with the size of your engine. It has to do with your ability to go further down the road. Keep that in mind. All right. So, do you need a bigger aerobic base? That's a question that every athlete really needs to ask of themselves. And here's the question specifically that you need to ask. Do I need a bigger base, or do I need a more powerful engine? Do I need a bigger gas tank, or do I need a bigger engine? Are you concerned about, can I cover this distance? Or are you concerned about cutting time off of the split that you had the last time you did that distance? That's the question. And you're in luck, because we created a really cool flow chart that has neat graphics and everything that's going to help you figure this out. So let's check it out. All right, so this is the question right here. This is question number 2. So first question, you need a bigger base, or you need a bigger gas tank, or do you need a bigger engine? You need a larger gas tank so you can go longer, or do you need a bigger engine so you can go faster? All right, so here's the second question. Are you concerned with your ability to ride? And we're primarily talking about cycling. Are you concerned with your ability to ride a given distance on race day? All right, so let me take a step back before we go through this and clarify why we're talking primarily about cycling. When it comes to swimming, swimming is a very, very neuromechanically driven sport. We all know that. There is swim-specific strength that has to be there in order for you to swim. That is part of the gas tank, let's say. All right, if you want to go faster while swimming, the technique is going to get you there. Working on the swim stroke, honing that in, definitely important. You can become more efficient, more economical. You can work, you can cut through the water instead of plowing your way through the water. But in general, swimming, very neuromechanically driven. Cycling, you got 5 points of contact most of the time. You got your butt, 2 feet, 2 hands. Right? All you got to do is turn the pedals over, and that's it. When we start talking about running, for someone who is a pure runner, this question is true. For somebody who is a triathlete, this question might or might not be true when it comes to the run. So the question is, are you riding the bicycle sufficiently that you can actually run the entire distance off the bike? So somebody who's doing a sprint or an Olympic distance event, this is a great question to ask about the run. Somebody who's going up to a 70.3 distance, it's a pretty good question. Somebody who is legitimately going to go out and actually run, not slog, meaning slow jog, themselves through a half marathon, if you're going to run it, then that's a fair question. Somebody who's getting into the Ironman area, if you're going to run the marathon, not slog or do, some sort of, well, I'm just going to walk a mile here and walk a mile there. If you're going to run it, then that's a realistic question. And this kind of gets us into another topic of, what's the fatigue rate, if you will, from somebody with an open half marathon to what they'll run a half marathon on off the bike. And here's the general rule. If it's 8% or less time difference from an open to an off the bike run, It's the running ability that needs to be addressed. If it's greater than 8%, it means you probably rode the bike too hard, which goes back to this question that we're looking at right here. Are you concerned with your ability to ride a given distance? All right, so there's two answers to this. Yes or no. If you are not concerned, hey, yep, I got it. I can ride a sprint, ride the Olympic. I can ride 56 miles. I can ride 112. I've done it before. Not really concerned about that. Okay, then that's not your concern. You need to build a bigger engine. You getting a bigger gas tank so you can ride 120 miles doesn't do shit for you on race day other than you ride the same slow time that you did before because you didn't build a bigger engine. But you might have a little bit left in the gas tank that didn't translate to more horsepower and going faster. If your answer is yes, you have another question. What's your power to weight ratio? Right? So this is your power at FTP, functional threshold power, divided by your weight in kilograms. So take your weight in pounds divided by 2.2. Then take your power output in watts at FTP, divided by your weight in kilograms. You got two answers to this. Is it less than 3.0 or is it greater than 3.0? An athlete that is healthy and well trained is probably going to be well above 3.0. An athlete that hasn't been well trained, they're new to the sport, they've had an injury, they've taken time off, whatever it is, that FTP, that power to weight ratio might be under 3. Right? So this is the question. So if you're less than 3, you need to get stronger on the bike. Right? If your power to weight ratio is under 3.0, you are in general not very strong on the bicycle. You need to get a bigger engine. Right? At that point, you have something between, let's say, a lawnmower engine and an engine off of, like, I don't know, a Ford Focus, like one of those little small cars. All right? You're not going to win a race against a muscle car, a sports car, or a big old truck in your fuel-efficient little itty-bitty Ford Focus. You can go all day long. You got great economy, great gas mileage, but you aren't going fast, especially if you have hills driving somewhere or riding your bicycle. You need to go from having a lawnmower or a Ford Focus engine to having an engine from, I don't know, let's say a Honda Accord, maybe a Toyota 4Runner, maybe a Porsche, something like that. You need to get stronger. What happens if it's greater than 3.0? Then you need to check your efficiency factor and your coupling. And this is the main point of this evening right here, what we're getting to. If you are concerned about your ability to ride a given distance, right? So this is an athlete who is going up in distance. So from sprint or Olympic up to a half Ironman or up to an Ironman. Maybe this is somebody who's been injured, took a lot of time off, has been away from the sport, whatever it may be. If they're concerned about riding a given distance, then they need to look and see, what's my power to weight ratio, right? If you're weak, build a bigger engine. Because guess what? When you're building a bigger engine, not all of the work is super high intensity. I would say 10, 15%, maybe 20% is high intensity. What's the other 80%? It's building a bigger gas tank. You can do both at the same time, but if you only choose to build a bigger gas tank, your engine's not getting bigger. All right. So if you are concerned about the distance on race day and you are strong, power to weight ratio is greater than 3.0, or let's say it's just 2.97 and you're like, I'm rounding it up to 3 because Ryan says I'm going to be weak if I'm under 3. Okay, cool. You're 3. Let's check efficiency factor and coupling. All right. So what is efficiency factor and coupling? Let's first talk about aerobic coupling. All right. It is used to measure aerobic endurance. That is your base. That is your gas tank. It measures the parallel relationship between an output metric, which we have beaten to death at this point on the Triathlon Study Hall calls, something like power on the bike, and an input metric, something like heart rate, for a session with constant output. All right, let's get more into this. So it's based on the scientific principle that as aerobic endurance increases, there is a reduction in cardiac drift. All right, cardiac drift means as you're continuing to train for an extended period of time or race for an extended period of time, your heart rate is just going to start drifting higher. And it's due to a lot of different physiological factors, not something to do with training, not something necessarily to do with training, not something necessarily controllable. But as you have more aerobic endurance, as you become more fit, there's a reduction in cardiac drift. All right, so we have two different test options. Option one, keep the heart rate steady and see what happens to the power output or the running pace. That's the most difficult of the two because you have to modify the intensity as you're going to keep heart rate within a 2, maybe 3 beat range. Option number two, heck of a lot easier. You keep the power output or the running speed constant and then watch what happens to heart rate. Option number two is your best bet. Option number one is doable. Test durations. If you're doing an Olympic distance event, your ride needs to be about 2 hours. Your run needs to be about an hour long. 70.3, we get up to 2.5 and 1.5 hours respectively. For an Ironman, 4 hours and 2 hours. All right, so what is it that we're looking at here? How does all this work? Well, first let's talk about the goals. If your aerobic coupling is 1% or less to include negative numbers, you have an outstanding base. Your aerobic endurance is outstanding. If you're between 1 and 3%, you are doing very good. If you're 3 to 5, you're good. 5 to 7, pretty good. 7 to 8%, that's really borderline. 8% or more, your base sucks. You need to build a base. All right, so this is a very clear-cut, well-defined, which we will get to in a moment, metric that says, hey, here's the story with your base. All right, so what are we looking at here? We got a couple different equations that are going to come through here. Let's just pop them both up. All right, so they are the same equation. The only difference is PW versus PA. PW is average power in watts. PA is your pace. All right, so PW, average power, HR, average heart rate. PA is your normalized graded pace. You got to get into Training Peaks or WKO Plus to get what that number is. That's your heart rate. All right, so let's take a look at the cycling one up top. What we're going to do, let's say we go for a 2-hour ride. You're going to take the power and divide that by the heart rate for the first half. Then you're going to take the power and divide that by the heart rate for the second half, and you're going to take the difference, right? So the first half minus the second half, and you're going to divide all of that again by the power divided by heart rate for the first half, right? So power to heart rate, that's ratio, means division, all right? When you get that, multiply it by 100, and you're going to get a percentage. That's how aerobic coupling works. Very, very, very simple. All right, so what are we looking at? Let's take a look at a graph. So across the x-axis, known time or distance, y-axis on the left, output, input metrics. If we are talking about that parallel or coupled relationship, and we ride for 2 hours, we should see, if you have a 0% decoupling, the power and the heart rate lines perfectly parallel, like train tracks. That very rarely happens. All right, so if we're keeping the power the same, power is going to run straight across there. Heart rate is going to change at some point. It's either going to go up or down, right? That is what we're looking for with aerobic coupling. All right, so that's one metric for you. Second metric is efficiency factor, used to evaluate the aerobic efficiency and aerobic endurance. It's used to evaluate several weeks of training sessions that are aerobic in nature, zone 1 or zone 2. We need to keep the test conditions as similar as possible. That includes the approximate time of day, pre-workout fatigue, the course you're riding on, the weather conditions, the equipment, pre-workout nutrition, especially if you're using caffeine, and your warm-up routine. All right, so if you are splitting these different workouts between a comp trainer and outside, it's going to be some screwy numbers. All right, if you do one test in the morning, the next test late at night, definitely can throw it off. All right, so keep these as consistent as possible. Here's how we calculate this stuff. For cycling, it's your normalized power for the ride divided by your average heart rate. For running, it's the normalized graded pace for the run divided by your average heart rate. Very simple, gives you a decimal. Here's what we're looking at. It's going to take 4 to 6 sessions, usually over 3 to 4 weeks, to accurately look at efficiency factor. You are looking for the efficiency factor numbers to level out. So here's what I'm talking about. All right, across the x-axis, training time, let's say it's in weeks, y-axis on the left, efficiency factor. Let's say here's the data points. We did 6 different sessions, and we can see that the number is continuing to increase as we're going. We're looking for a plateau, right? So there's a line of best fit, and there's a line of best fit. So are we starting to see a plateau? Yes, we are, right? These last 2 data points, they're starting to plateau. Would I call this really good? No, I would say you're well on the way to being really good. I would want to see one more test. And if we have these 2 data points here on the far right and the third one that is somewhere in line, plateau, then we know that our efficiency factor, our aerobic endurance, is good. Should look something like this. All right, so our lines of best fit, we can now see 3 of the 6 dots are pretty much in line. It's plateaued. That's telling us your aerobic base is good. All right, so we have 2 metrics that involve real numbers that are collected by you, the athlete, based on your ability. All right, so let's take a look back at our flow chart. All right, so we know that if you are concerned about the distance, we go over to the left. If your power to weight ratio is good, then you need to check the efficiency factor and the coupling. Remember, this can take a little bit of time. This can take 2, 3, 4 weeks. All right, the coupling, that's the easiest one to take a look at. All right, get an Ironman or a race-specific workout in, and let's see where it's at. All right, the efficiency factor, that takes more data points. All right, but here's what you got. You got 2 scenarios. You're either good or you need work. All right, now, before we hit the next button, if I only had to choose one of the 2 to base or to judge my aerobic base off of, I would use coupling or decoupling, right? And the reason being, I can extend that out or shorten that up however much I need in order to see how the aerobic base is going. When it comes to efficiency factor, I need more data points. Using both of them in conjunction, that's your best bet. That's where you're going to get the most accurate answer. So if you're good, if your efficiency factor and your coupling is good, you need a bigger engine. If you need work, you need a bigger gas tank. That's it, right there. I can't make it any simpler than that. You got the metrics, you got the tests, you know how to do it. So the question is, do you need a bigger base or a bigger engine? Do you need a bigger gas tank or a stronger engine? All right, ladies and gentlemen, the next Triathlon Study Hall call Tuesday, November 24th. Same time, same station, same URL. Give me till tomorrow to get that loaded up there. And let's see what questions we have. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Type them in. Holy cow, we got a bunch of them. All right, let's get these pulled up. All right. Let's see what we have here. All right, how to calculate the power to weight ratio. You're going to take the power output in watts at FTP. You're going to divide that by the athlete's weight in kilograms to get kilograms from pounds. You take the body weight in pounds and divide it by 2.2. That simple. Then take your power output, divide it by the weight in kilograms. There's your power to weight ratio. All right. Let's see. Good question, Aaron. Thank you. All right. Does power to weight ratio factor in the same for old people like me? That's a quote, verbatim, not making that up. Roberta, your power to weight ratio as you age will start to come down. You have less muscle mass, you have less ability to generate power. Okay, so once you hit about 50, 55, you're going to start to notice that, and it is a downhill process. With the right training, we can blunt that as best we can. That's what we're doing right now with your program. So for somebody, let's say 50 to 60 years old, maybe 2.75 or higher would be good. Somebody who is 60 to 65, I would say probably right around that same, maybe 2.6 to 2.7. It really just depends. You know, a lot of it goes into the history of the athlete and, you know, how much time they've spent swimming, biking, running, etc. So, good question. And Roberta's clarifying, she means older, not old. I got you there, Roberta. So another question from Roberta, why do I never use heart rate? I don't know why you don't use heart rate. You should use it all the time. I just don't want you looking at it. All right, what other questions? Oh, Lisa is double checking my math. I'm not going to give up Lisa's age, but she pretty much just proved me absolutely correct with what I said. Yeah, okay, good. All right, what other questions, guys? Give me some other ones. Anything you got? Swim, bike, run, nutrition, mechanics. You want to talk about how cold it is in San Diego? I had to wear a sweatshirt all day. It's horrible. Freezing out here. Questions. Great question by Lisa. Is there any way that we can check to see what our efficiency factor is on our own? Yes, you can. It is calculated with every single workout. If you look in Training Peaks on the right-hand side, make sure you select the entire workout or whatever part of it you want, and then look for the metric that says EF, and that is it right there. Aaron says, my power to rate ratio is 0.59. Aaron, I'm guessing that you didn't do that calculation correct. You'd pretty much have to be like, I don't know, really bad, like injured, unhealthy, bad to have 0.59. So you might need to redo that calculation. All right, we must have done such an outstanding job this evening covering whether you need to build a bigger base or not, that there aren't any questions, which is always a good sign. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming out and spending part of your evening with us in the Triathlon Study Hall. Reminder, the next call, Tuesday, November 24th, same time, same station, and I look forward to seeing you then. All right, train smarter, not harder.